Working with bones, minerals and plants is as old as humanity itself, and it's not native to a particular place but found throughout the entire world. There was a time in Europe when we'd take the head of an ancestor and we'd speak with it as though it were alive. Think of Odin and Mimir. It's not just mythology. Today, taking flowers and gifts and speaking with dead loved ones at their graveside is commonplace and is socially acceptable and a normal thing to do. Times change, social norms change, but underpinning this is a need for connection with spirit. They can offer wise counsel, assurance and protection among other things. When working with animals, minerals and plants, we are not only working with the physical form of them, but their spirit too. My own practice is deeply rooted in animism. Workings employing these parts rely on the practitioner's own relationship to the plant, mineral or animal. It is said that the skull holds the soul. The spirit of the bones can access the physical realm using their own bones as a kind of anchor point to this world as an individual spirit, but the oversoul of the species can also be contacted and employed through the bones, especially skulls. If you don't have a skull, then larger bones from the animal are the next best thing for housing the spirit. I tend to use smaller but more brittle, fragile bones for making powders and larger ones as a point of contact with spirit. I communicate with the creature, ask for its help, tell it exactly what I want to do with it, and ask it if it would like any offering as a way to mutually exchange and grow in our relationship and bonding. Sometimes it's a no, and I advise to leave well alone if this is the case. It has some other purpose which doesn't involve you, and I respect that. However, if the animal or plant or mineral is available for work and wants to be part of your plans for it, then it's good practice to sit with it, carry it if you can. Sleep with it too if it's small enough. You don't have to sleep with or carry everything you find, of course. It's just a suggestion for creating a connection to the thing. Materials which are to be used in divination are especially helpful if you sleep with them under your pillow, especially if you wish to procure dreams from them. Like any relationship, it gets stronger with time, and with each positive interaction, the two get woven together. Choosing things to work with for a specific purpose can come naturally for some. For others it may take a while to connect the dots. But there's symbolism in everything in nature if you have the eyes to see it. We look at the nature of a thing, its particular abilities, appearance, individual personality, its habitat, surroundings, structure, form and function. Different parts can be used for different purposes. The leaves have a different function to the roots. The eyes and feet also have different abilities within the whole. The relationship the practitioner has with the plant or animal in its lifetime can also be a factor. Have you sown the seed with your own hands, cared for it, fed it, nurtured it until it was time to harvest? These relationships factor into what you get out of it as ingredients as an end result. Everything we use has its own memory, its own ancestral line, its own story of creation. All of this power and energy becomes present when working with these spirits and their physical counters. Bones are the last physical form left of an animal when death takes them. The flesh and hair putrefy and give nourishment to the plants and soil around them. The bones act as a way for the spirit of the thing to get back to the physical, if only for a short while at a time. The bones can be saved with the spirit's permission to house the spirit of the creature if it wishes to visit. The bones won't always be occupied, but you can use them to invite the creature back in order to work with them. Some witches have human bones they employ in their work. Spirits can be sought for information, advice, lending energy and power to a working, divination and dreams, among other things. I like to use animal and plant and mineral matter in powders. I recently came across an article about using the last bit of powder as an ingredient for the new batch of powder you're making. So if you've made some previously and are down to your last little bit, use the powder in the making of the new one. This gives it an ancestral line. The powders begin to have their own line of ancestry and take on a life all on their own and evolve just as we do, giving it more power as the generations go along. So I will definitely be using this information in my own practice in the future. I'm going to give you my own personal recipe for what I call powder of power or power powder. Some of this is subject to change depending on what I have to hand to put in it at the time. As folk practitioners, we mainly use what's around us, though I am very much going to employ the generational power idea, as this will give the new powder some of the old and therefore its ingredients and spirit power as it evolves and changes over the years, adding momentum to its energy with every new batch made. I tend to make this powder on a full moon. If there's too big or stubborn ingredient to put into the powder, you can always burn it and use its ashes if it's doable. Some bits and bobs are hard to come by and are potent in their spirit, so for these I use sparingly, as I never know when I'll be able to get hold of some again. Words can be used while making the powder, infusing it with the life's breath, chanting, singing the powder to life within a conjuration triangle. In this particular batch, I'm using a bit from the old powder, dirt from my ancestor's grave, a dried toad, a bone of hair, bone of my old pet cat, dirt taken from the Nine Ladies stone circle, which is early Bronze Age, 3 drops of rain collected in a thunderstorm, dragon's blood, a bit of mandrake, and plantain is a favourite of mine for this powder. This mix is obviously not to be taken internally. Mix and grind it all together in a mortar and pestle using the right hand with clockwise motion to add to its increasing of power. Any big pieces can be taken out or left in as required. I'm putting the bottle in a wooden oak box lined with red velvet to infuse it with more power. The powder can be additionally fed by chanting over it, giving it a function as a whole, pouring into it your intention by holding its container, wrapping it in red cloth when not in use, and by placing it under the light of a full moon each month. It can also be placed in jewellery such as a locket or poison ring, or used to draw sigils or symbols for working. The powder can also be used to feed the spirits if they ask for or require it. It can be rubbed onto their spirit house or given a little pinch in a bowl next to their home. I also like to use it to sprinkle onto or rub into new tools I have and to feed the ones I have had for a long time. You can also add extra bits to the powder for specific workings like blood, moon water, iron, etc. This powder can be used for protection and oracular activities such as scrying and divination. It can also be used to aid the building of energy and power in a working. It can also be used to cast a circle or conjuration triangle around on a working table. It can be put in a box for items to be placed on it to imbue the items with the powder's virtues. It can be added to flour or soil if you needed more powder. Think of it like dilute pop. If this was to be used in baneful magic, I wouldn't include my own blood, nor dirt from my ancestral graves. I would also use blackthorn and plants which sting or scratch, brambles, nettles and the like. I'll be making another video more specific to animals and bones in the future. Thanks for watching.